This is why you're probably using the wrong infill pattern. I was recently working on a project that involved using thin sections of infill as a mesh, but I could never get the mesh as strong as I wanted until I realized something. I was using this triangle infill pattern because I thought it looked cool. But here's the thing. When you're laying down a continuous line of filament, we aren't really melting the filament as much as we are forming it with a laminar flow. When you think about it like this, you start to see why my problem existed. As you lay down this continuous line of filament, it is strong with no weak points along its path. However, when an infill pattern overlaps itself, like we see in these two spots, it breaks this continuous filament path and introduces stresses at the intersection points caused by the nozzle passing back over the line. You're effectively creating weak points at all the infill intersections, and thus the overall strength of your mesh is reduced. This is why I was having so many issues with my strength. But with an infill pattern like honeycomb, for instance, we never intersect on the same layer, which means our line never gets interrupted, and thus the infill pattern is overall a lot stronger. With the honeycomb infill pattern in particular, it has a nice way of stacking itself, which maximizes layer adhesion. You can see in these areas where it overlaps, it maximizes layer adhesion by stacking along an already established line. This increases the mesh strength even further. Oh, and bonus points for enabling alternate extra wall. This ensures that the endpoints of your infill are interlocked into your wall, which means now you have 0 weak points in your mesh. This really only applies for similar use cases, as gyroid is basically the gold standard of 3D infill patterns at this point for regular printing. But for this particular application, you definitely don't want to use something like triangles. And